What's up, everybody? So these days, most of us are on social media in some capacity, and surprise, surprise, so are our clients. Even if you only have privatized personal accounts on social media and no public social media presence, it's still completely worth it to put a social media policy in place. In today's video, I go over some of the items to be sure to include in your social media policy, and I go over how to implement it. Welcome to Private Practice Skills. I'm Dr. Marie Fang, psychologist in private practice. I post videos offering tools I learned the hard way about starting and growing private practice so that you don't have to. So back when I was in grad school 10 years ago, the majority of my professors weren't on social media. Oh, the good old days. Back in grad school, I only had a Facebook account and wasn't on social media. Otherwise, it was a personal account that I made completely private, and just to make sure that my clients wouldn't find me, I used a fake name. Well, if you've been following me at all, you know that's no longer true of me. At this point, I do separate my personal and business accounts by making my personal accounts private. But I do definitely have a very public social media presence for my business, particularly through YouTube and Instagram. And I know that these days, I'm not the only one that has a business presence on social media. And social media really can be a great marketing platform for private practice. But just because we can have a business presence on social media, it doesn't mean that it's a free-for-all as far as interacting with clients and potential clients. These platforms are not HIPAA secure at all, and therefore it's completely inappropriate to have any type of professional conversations with clients on these platforms. So what is a therapist to do? The APA published an article in 2014 titled Best Practices for an Online World, in which they reference social media as, quote, ushering in a small world online environment that is analogous to small world rural settings where psychologists have encountered more transparency than their urban counterparts for years. And that both rural areas and social media landscapes, quote, are characterized with pervasive incidental contact, inevitable self-disclosure, and unavoidable multiple relationships. Now, this APA article is rather thorough regarding how to navigate these multiple relationships on social media, so I'll link to it below. I really encourage you to check it out so you can make sure you're following the best practices for our field when it comes to social media. Within this article, the APA suggests we implement a social media policy and leaves it to the individual practitioner to decide what to include. They do say our policies, at the very least, acknowledge the risks and benefits of using social media and other technology. In addition, such policies could lay out psychologists' expectations for using such sites, namely that practitioners do not friend or interact with clients on social networking sites. Practitioners should also inform clients that they do not search for them online unless the client has given consent or it is part of a clinical treatment plan. So there are some guidelines that we need to make sure we follow with our social media policies, but some of it is a little bit open-ended. So here are some categories that I suggest you consider addressing in your social media policy. First, it's helpful to remind clients why you have this policy to begin with, which the main reason is for their own privacy. Just a reminder, these platforms are not HIPAA secure, so therefore it's not appropriate to exchange any sort of private professional messages with your clients through these social media platforms. Number two, distinguish between personal and professional accounts. So if you have both a personal presence and a business presence on social media, you need to let clients know how your policies differ for each of these. Number three, friending and following policy. Be clear about how you respond or not if a current or former client attempts to friend or follow you on social media. Number four, address public conversations. Let your clients know that you do everything you can to protect their privacy should they interact with you publicly, such as leaving a comment on your Instagram post. So personally, I let clients know that if they do opt to interact with me on my business social media page, I will either not respond at all, or if I do offer any kind of response, it will not acknowledge any other information. It won't acknowledge that I know them, that they're my client, or anything along those lines. So basically, I'd interact with them as though a stranger was interacting with me. Now, remember how that APA article referred to the similarities between running into clients in a rural area and the landscape of social media? Personally, I see those similarities all the time, and so I interact with clients on social media the same way I'd interact with clients if we crossed paths at the grocery store. I have an entire video going over what to do if you run into clients in public, so you can feel free to check that out and implement some of those strategies for your social media policy as well. Number five, your social media policy is a great place to address location-based services. So it's just helpful to remind clients that if they do have location-based services enabled on their phone, then it can compromise their privacy when they are present in your office with their phone. And number six, Search engines. Now, the APA discourages us from searching for our clients online, whether that be through a search engine like Google or through social media. Our clients may not want for us to know what their public presence looks like unless they specifically ask us to check something out online, then of course it's okay. So as you can imagine, if you address each of these categories as a separate section in your social media policy, you could wind up with something that's several pages long. And I found some examples online that are super helpful. I'll link to them below. They are several pages long, and that might be a good fit for you. However, I found that from my practice, I can include all the relevant information related to all of the categories I mentioned in a relatively short and sweet form. I've also linked to my sample social media policy in the description box, so you can take that and tweak it however you might like. And lastly, be sure to go over your social media policy with your clients in the initial session. I find it easiest to go over this at the same time that I go over what I do in case I run into a client outside of the office, since there's a lot of similarities between the two experiences. Well, I hope you found this video helpful as you develop your social media policy. Let me know in the comments below if there's anything you would add in your policy, and until next time, from one therapist to another, I wish you well. Today's video is brought to you by TherapyNotes.com. TherapyNotes helps with scheduling, notes, and billing so that you can spend more time with your clients and less time on back office paperwork. Click the link in the description of this video to get 2 months to try it for free with no commitment. In this video, I'm going to go over all the things you want to make sure you conclude. Oh, poo, that's annoying. Guess who's awake? Baby girl is awake.